Friday at 5 with Greta B. Remember when you thought you'd never live to age 30? Or for that matter, you didn't want to ever be 30? Certain numbers on the birthday cake evoke big responses from boomers. Tonight, Greta explores the big ones and what happens to both men and women the night before. The big ones, 20, 30, 40, 50, and beyond. Also on tonight's show, Greta will explain what Bette Davis has to do with time travelers and the 30th birthday celebrations. This is Andy Asher of BloomerBoomer.com, the platform that will launch you toward the happiest life you want after 55. Tonight, no one will escape Greta's feisty comments about aging and who does it best, men or women. Now, Greta B.
Oh, Andy, I am going to pee some people off tonight. I'm going to have women saying that I'm not a chick's chick and that I'm a sexist. And I'm going to have men saying that I'm a B-buster, B-A-L-L buster, ball buster. It's going to be bad, but I have to speak the truth. And we're talking about momentous birthdays. We're talking about the big ones, starting with the littler ones and building up. And what happens, what occurs the night before and the morning of some of those big numbered birthdays. But before that, I just want to, one quick comment, and it's fun. I want to say hi to Karen, Mike, who else? Laura, hello, out there. Hi, guys. One thing I want to say, because I was talking to some friends this week about everything that's going on in the world and how we're all in this weird reality and it's going to clamp down again on us and it's about to get tight again. And for a minute it had expanded. And I was talking to somebody and we were saying, well, you know, when we get back to, and you and I were talking before the show, when we get back to normal, whatever the new normal is. And then it occurred to me in the conversation earlier this week, talking about, well, what is normal? What is real? I guess you just have to create your own little bubble here right now and just stay in your bubbles. Create your own little reality, which is what we've all had to do here, wherever we live, to the degree that we're allowed to go out or not go out. So we got to just create our little bubbles, stay in our bubbles and be happy. So that's my little message, I guess, my little motivational message. Like, what is real? There is no real anymore. So there's just your bubble and making your bubble comfy. There you go. There you have it. Okay, now I'm very scientific. So we're going to look at these birthdays chronologically. Okay, we're going to use the scientific method. We're going to start with the 20th birthday. And we're going to talk as we go through these, what happens for men and what happens for women, what goes bad and what goes good. So the 20th birthday, think back if you can, people. And yes, we're all boomers. And I'm going to remind you, you've got this beautiful vantage point. You're sitting on a mountain. You're looking down at all the decisions you've made, the things you didn't do, the things you did do. It gives you a great perspective. It makes up for some of the wrinkles and sags and droops and things that are going on because you have stuff going on up here that compensates. And it's our vantage point of being a boomer. We're lucky to be boomers, okay? We're part of the greatest generation, et cetera, et cetera. Don't get me started on my millennials thing. So 20th birthdays for us, not in this day and age, in our day and age. 20th birthday, I think sort of universally, both men and women have this sense of the world is your oyster. You're not a teenager anymore. You're not a kid. You're an adult and the world is ahead. You don't even know yet how you're going to conquer it, but you're absolutely sure you're going to conquer it. Do you remember that feeling? That feeling of imperviousness, of invincibility, got the world by the tail. I had a girlfriend of mine share a story because I was culling as I do, because again, scientific, getting my research together, interviewing people, doing my due diligence. My best friend actually was talking about the morning of her 21st birthday. And she said the morning of her 21st birthday, she remembers it vividly. She woke up and she refused to get out of bed because her world had ended. She was 21. So that's an extreme. That usually happens a little later, like the 30th, and we'll talk about that. But that feeling of, for whatever birthday it was for you, and we've all had it, and I'll share mine with you, that feeling of it's over, you've reached a milestone beyond which you don't even want to go because it's a scary number, okay? And number varies. So that's the 20th birthday. Optimistic, world is your oyster, etc. I don't have my teleprompter, so I have a big legal pad here I'm propping up. Don't ask me why. I got lazy is the bottom line. Okay, 30th birthday. So for us, for the boomers, we never imagined we'd make it till 30. I know I didn't. When I was in high school, I was in my early 20s. I didn't think, I couldn't envision, whoa, what would it feel like to be 30? There's no way I'm going to make it to 30. That's like hugely old. Here's what happens universally. On our 30th birthday, we all got the kit. And you know what it was? It's the thing that had the preparation H, the Depends, although back in our time it wasn't called Depends, whatever it was called. So, the adult diapers, the Geritol, remember Geritol? All the corny jokes about, every birthday card was, well, you're over the hill now. So we all got that little kit with all those goofy things because you're so old at 30. My God, 30 today looks like 12 or something like that. For men, however, 30 is a big macho milestone. It is, if I haven't begun to conquer the world, I am going to conquer the world. The world is my domain. I am hot, strong, and sexy. I'm in my skin, in my maleness in a way that is really powerful. Women, for our generation, had a sense of, oof, I better start taking care of my looks because it's all going to be downhill from here. 30's it. This is the last moment. I'm going to look halfway decent. The biological clock starts to tick. It's like 30. Ooh, yeah, I better start thinking about that stuff. We talked about Bette Davis in the intro. I have hair in my eyes. Sorry. I was getting ready to star in a movie. The night of my 30th birthday occurred before the shoot date of a movie in which I was playing a college kid, which was fun because I was turning 30, but I was playing 18. I was okay with that, 19, whatever. I happened to be, long story short, which we'll talk about in another show, I happened to be spending the evening and having dinner with Bette Davis. And I shared with her the fact that even though I was doing this movie where I was playing this, and it was a time traveler type movie, which is where the time traveler part comes in. I said, I'm 30. My God, I'm going to be 30 tomorrow. I'm going to work, which is a good thing. As an actor, that's always a good thing. You're going to work, but I'm going to be 30. And I remember she just took a deep breath and she just sat back and she said, my dear, I am so envious of you. The years between 30 and 50 are the best for a woman. They are absolutely the best. So I had that going for me. It's like, okay, I have Bette Davis telling me it's cool for the next 20 years. She gave me a pass, man. That was very cool. But nevertheless, that 30th birthday for our era was come on, guys, that was a biggie. We were considered over the hill. We thought we would be. And it was a time where, again, for women, it's like, okay, the looks are going to go like in the next 3 weeks, probably. And for men, it was like, I'm in my stuff. I'm king of the jungle. I'm going to conquer the world. So that's 30. Let me get my handy legal pad, flip it over. So 40. Oh, this is a good one. This is a good one. So here's the deal with 40. And I know you guys can relate to this because I've talked to everybody who will listen or who knows me or who used to know me. The night before your 40th birthday, and correct me if I'm wrong, your vision goes. You wake up the next morning having had perfect vision your entire life. I was the person they handed the lipstick tube to when it said cinnamon caramel swirl in like a 0.05 Helvetica font that nobody could read without a magnifying glass. I could read it. But the day of my 40th birthday, my vision went. I instantly needed readers. So, and I know that happens pretty much across the board. That's a pretty freaky thing. That's just the physical thing, presbyopia. We have the term, again, the science. So that happens on 40. Women start to do strange things subsequent to their 40th. And I'm speaking about, well, I guess I'm speaking from personal experience. What the hell? Let's throw it out there. And friends of mine, this is the decade. This begins the decade where women who start to do crazy things about their life partners, if they're going to get out of a relationship. This is when the women start to think of it. This is when they run off with the local karaoke star at the local bar. Like suddenly he seems like Tom Jones and she has to be with him and leave her fabulous husband. Or he's in a band at the local pool hall and she's got to run off with that guy. This is when women start fantasizing about the exciting, what they perceive as the exciting guy, as opposed to their boring, dull, perfect, absolutely normal husband. And they start to think about leaving and they leave. Some of them do. Men are just beginning to have those feelings. And men are also, as vis-a-vis their sex drive, women are still in the uphill swing. 40 is when they just start climbing the uphill ladder as far as their sex drive, sexual function, all of that stuff. Men, however, are beginning to, well, they thinking about it and want it as much, but it's beginning to bother them that maybe the equipment isn't responding the way it did when they were 18. That's when it starts to show up for men around that stuff. So 40 is the line of demarcation for sexuality. Women go on the ascension. Men start to begin to see that Mr. Springy is occasionally a little soft around the edges, if you know what I mean. So that starts worrying them. That's when their mind starts thinking weird things that will manifest at about 50, which we're going to talk about next. Flipping my legal pad. So let me tell you something, men, and I've shared this, and this is where the guys are all going to hate me. Something happens to you the night of your 50th birthday, because the next day you have what I call the jerky stab foot. And women, you know what I'm talking about. They can no longer break organically, elegantly. It's this foot. It's this stab foot thing. It's like, you know what I'm talking about, women. We've had to put up with this. Something happens to their reflexes. And men get really mad when I mention this, and I'll mention it to them. It's like, you got that foot thing that happened. Let me ask, when did that happen? When you were 50, right? It's a jerky stab foot thing that happens on brakes in cars. Universally happens to men. However, I guess this is when men, to get back at women like me who complain about the jerky stab foot, this is when men start relying a little more on the little blue pills, because that stuff that started happening at 40 begins to manifest a little more frequently. This is also when the men start to think that maybe that age-appropriate wife, if they're still with her, if she didn't leave him for a karaoke star in her 40s, maybe she's kind of a drag. Maybe she's kind of an albatross around his neck. He starts to emotionally regress into this mode where he kind of wants to go and date and be with the same women he would have been with when he was in like his 20s. I mean, men do that. We know that they do, and women do too, but the men, I don't know, something happens. They want to be young, and they think that by being with a 23-year-old, that will make them seem young, like, look at what I can get, even though it's because of the blue pills and the whatever. I don't get mad at me, guys, because you have friends that have done that if you haven't, and women, you know what I'm talking about. Women have now, they're sexually peaking. They're sexually peaking. And they've kind of lost the governor on their emotions, the governor on their ability to not talk about the things that are really bugging them with these emotionally regressed guys. So they get a little what guys consider bitchy, and they attribute it to menopause, and sometimes it is, but sometimes it's just, the governor's off. It's like, you just really don't feel like hiding what you're thinking anymore. And the guys are acting kind of goofy. So you call them out, kind of pull the covers. Men start to think about at 50 and in the 50s, they're going to hike the Himalayas. Notice how I pronounced that correctly, the Himalayas, as though I've been there, which I haven't. They're going to hike the Himalayas, and they're going to write a book about it. They're going to do a photo book about their hike of the Himalayas because they're young and virile and hiking the Himalayas. That's what they want to do. Women, on the other hand, are thinking about opening a day spa, hiring a bunch of metaphysical, freaky people who are really good at what they do and making beaucoup bucks off of people that want to go to a day spa and get their tarot cards read while they get a foot massage. So they're getting real into their business head now. They're like, okay, I did the kids thing. I did everything I needed to do. And now I'm going to like go out there and kill it in the business world and just show what I can do in that regard. If they didn't do it before, and women can do it before, but this is the time when they start to think about doing that stuff. They start making beaucoup bank and running businesses and doing a really good job of it. Things start to go missing. For women, the waistline has disappeared. The waistline is gone. When I was running my fitness camps, women across the board come up to me and go, once I hit menopause, my waistline was gone. I looked down one day, my waistline was gone. It happens. They start to get, ladies, I'm sorry, it has to do with a lot of different things. And that's another show, and we'll talk about it. We've talked about it, weight and all that stuff, but you start to lose your waistline. Do you not? Men lose their hair. So the guys are going bald. The women are getting a little thicker around the middle. These are the realities of aging, according to moi. The bad realities, and there's good realities, and it doesn't happen to everybody, but come on, we all know people that all this stuff has happened to. Now let's talk about 60. Men are now on their second, third, or fourth wife because they've run through the age ranges of what they think makes them look young and hot and feel young and all that good stuff. That minor midlife paunch that they started to have back in the 50s, the decade of their 50s, is now kind of a major sort of gut for a lot of them, not always, but it can be. So, and you guys are so funny. You all say, oh, I never had, this just showed up during COVID. Didn't have this, never had it before. It'll be gone in 2 weeks. Do you know what it takes to lose a paunch? It takes a lot of work. It takes more than 2 weeks, guys. And it took longer than a couple of months during COVID to get it. It's been growing. You've been in denial, and there it is. And there's ways to get rid of it if you want to. And it is pretty much a predictor of heart problems. So you probably do want to get rid of it just for health purposes. And some of you guys are paying for sex. Come on, let's get real. I know some of these, I see these Instagram chicks. I'm a model. I know I got the beans on a lot of those girls, and they're not models. Okay. Anyway, so there's all these young girls that are putting it out there for, dollars, and the guys are happy to whatever. And the women are, maybe running around with the younger guys or not. And now the caveat to all of this is the happily married couples that met up with their high school childhood sweetheart or met someone in midlife after their first marriage fell apart, and they're happily married, and God bless you. I love you. You give me hope because you exist and you're happy and authentic and wonderful, and God bless you, bless you, bless you. But I'm not talking about you. I'm talking to the other peeps, and they know who they are, and I know who they are. We know who we are. So those are, I'm not going to go to the 70s and beyond because I can't give it all away in one show, but those are pretty much the universal truths about the big birthdays, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And there's a lot of beauty. There are, I mentioned a friend who on her 21st birthday woke up and went, I don't want to be this age. Well, guess what? She now loves every birthday. Okay. The night of my 40th birthday was at a ski event in Big Bear, California, and there was a big party, and I didn't think it was bothering me that I was turning 40 the next day. And I realized I was feeling a little strange, and I excused myself. I was then married. I said to my husband, I'm going to go back to the room. I went back to the room, drew a bubble bath, and cried for 2 hours. And then it was over. So we have our reaction, we get through it, we move on. And that's it. Andy, have I pissed you off with any of this?
Well, you gave me some insight that I hadn't realized, and I thought what Bette Davis advised you of was really, really good, and I think that can apply to men too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
30 to 50 is a good time, but there's a couple of questions, and one I'll ask this one. This is because it's sort of what I was going to ask you about myself. So this one is from Bill. He says he remembers when he turned 35 because that's when he noticed that he was going bald. And I sort of remember that myself when I would be looking in the mirror in the morning and I would notice that it looked like I was getting a little thin up there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I put that in the 40th decade for men. maybe the 50th.
And
Maybe
then
the,
the one you talked about needing readers. It was right at 40. I was trying to look at a roadmap and I could not figure out why I couldn't read it.
I actually went to my optometrist. I went to my sunglass guy because I'd gotten some sunglasses the week before my 40th.
Uh-huh.
The week after my 40th, went back to him. I go, there's a film on these. Is there some kind of a film? He goes, no. And I said, well, there's some kind of a, it's bad glass. And I
Yeah.
only realized later, no, the glasses were fine. My eyes had gone fuzzy.
I know, and that is something that just takes you by surprise. Now, Phyllis, I don't know if she goes along with what you were saying or not, but she says 60. Phyllis is now 60, but she feels when she turned 30 it was the toughest.
Everybody, like for me, 40 was tough for one night. Okay. And after that, I have to remember how old I am. When people ask me how old I am, I literally have to think, oh, well, that's a scary number. So Phyllis, 30 for our era was a big one. That was the big one for most people, frankly. So she's not alone with that.
Yeah, and Janice was says she was in her late 50s, and that's when she felt for the first time guys weren't paying the same kind of attention to her, but she's not sure, thinking maybe she was just feeling too self-conscious.
Well, let's address that, Janice.
Yeah.
Um, I read a quote that Cher said that at 50, from 50 on, women become invisible to men, and that's Cher. Okay. Um, Something does happen at 50. And I don't know. You know what? We just have to ignore it, Janice. We just have to ignore it because yeah, it seems to be at the time when even if you've stayed really young looking for all of your middle age, suddenly at 50 and 60, there are things that start to show up, age cues that's kind of signal to people you're not quite the perky 30-year-old. And for those who are just into the perky 30-year-old, they're going to like, if they're looking at a group of people, they're going to you're going to be invisible to them. That's just who they are. And that who cares? We don't want to hang out with those people anyway. But yeah, so that's and also I remember this was a very Hollywood person, and I'll never forgive or forget that he was talking about somebody that was about to turn 60, and it was somebody fabulous, some famous super celebrity or whatever. He goes, well, she's going to see what it's like. He said the years between 60 and 70 are not kind to a woman, and I thought, well, like they are to a guy, but it was a very sexist, ageist thing to say. But I'll never forget that he said that. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. By the way, Cher looks pretty amazing.
Okay. Yeah.
I
She
saw a
does.
picture of her not too long ago, or saw her. She was on something or another, but
Yeah. I think I saw a video at a political rally recently.
maybe that was it. Yeah, yeah. Well, it's always part of life, and I guess like we were talking before we started here, a lot of age is in the mind, huh?
Well, here's how it's in the mind because like I said, when people ask me how old I am, and I literally, and I'm not kidding about this, I really have to think to remember because I put it so out of mind. It's so not a part of my consciousness, except when it is. And there are those moments when it is, but for the most part, it's not. So I think as long as we're just carrying on and getting better in the ways that we're getting, there's things I do now that I wouldn't have had the BALLSs to do when I was 20 years old. Are you kidding me? And I was pretty courageous. I left my home in Fort Wayne, Indiana with $200 in my pocket and headed to New York City and didn't know a soul. That's courageous, but courageous in another way. Things that I do now that I would not have been able to throw myself out there and do in the way that I do. And I'm glad that I can. So yeah, age has its benefits. We have, like I said, we got this vantage point and we know what works. We know what doesn't work. And we know that here's what we know. We know that we will live through whatever it is. We will. History has shown us broken heart. I can't live without it. Oh yeah, you can. You'll be fine with time. So those are the beautiful things. Those are the beautiful things that we get with age.
Absolutely. Well, next week, maybe you'll kind of clue us in on a couple of other things that you teased us about.
I will. I think I'm going to save that. I have a couple of things that I do want to tease people about. I think I'm going to save it for next week. It'll be a little surprise.
That's okay. Well, that's good. Well, as always, it's a great way to end the week and start a Friday night, Greta. And what better way to do it on a Friday
Don't hate
night?
me too much, guys and girls. I love you. Don't hate me too much.
All right. You have a great weekend.
Okay, thank you. You too. Have a great one, guys.
Bye, Greta. Thank you,
Bye.
Greta B. Feisty Friday at 5. We'll be back here same day, same time. You can find out more on Facebook and YouTube, and please like us on Facebook. Meantime, get to know Bloomer Boomer, your platform to springboard you to a happy life after 55. See you next time.